If you're struggling in your relationship, if you're thinking, am I with the right person? Are they really the one? I feel undervalued. I feel underappreciated. I feel like they just don't get me. Before you make any rash decisions, just please watch this video because it could genuinely save your relationship like it saved mine. The 5 love languages are one of the most important things to understand because after I read this book, it changed so much for me in my relationships, in my friendships, in my family relationships, basically in every area of my life. And I think that after watching this video, I'm hoping that it will change something for you too. So hey everyone, welcome back to this channel. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're an OG, thank you so much for supporting me to make these videos for you every single week. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 5 love languages. If you haven't read the book, it's an amazing book. But if you don't have time, just watch this video and I promise you it will help you to uncover so many things about yourself, but also be really aware of so many things about your partner, about your parent, about your sibling, around your friend, whatever relationship it is. But it really has helped me in so many of my relationships to make them stronger, to understand the relationship a lot better, and to really dig deep and figure out what is it that I truly want. In any relationship, communication is the most important thing. And it seems really easy, right? Just say what you want. But how do you know what you really want? How do you know what makes you truly happy? And how do you know what truly makes your partner happy if you haven't communicated that with them or if you haven't understood it from their perspective? Knowing your love language really helps you understand your need for appreciation, for stability, and it can really help strengthen your relationship more than you know. So let's get into the first love language, which is my favorite love language, and it's actually quality time. So for someone like me, I really struggle in long distance relationships because I see spending time with someone as a way that they show me love, and it's also a way I show someone else love. As women, I think a lot of us want a lot of attention, and I'm going to play into that stereotype here because I actually am part of that stereotype where I do want attention from my partner. I don't want to be in a relationship where we can spend all of our time apart and then still be together because I'm like, what's the point? I may as well be single. If I'm only seeing somebody very occasionally, if I see them and it's always with other people and we don't get to spend quality time together, I'm kind of like, why would we be in a relationship? So quality time for me is super, super, super important. And my partner knows that because I emphasize it all the time. But I think some of the time we're just a bit like, well, I don't care if you don't want to make plans. I don't care if you don't want to do this. I don't care if you go away for 3 weeks. I'm not going to miss you. With me, I'm like, hello, I'm really going to miss you. And I do find it really hard to be away from my partner. Not so much when I'm doing work, but let's say if I'm on holiday, I do think of him so much because I'm like, I really want to experience this with you. I really want to share this with you. I really want to be here with you. And so quality time for me, I've recognized over the years is probably my most important love language. And I think here, if you love spending time with somebody and you don't really care about where you go or what you do, it doesn't have to necessarily be a fancy place, doesn't necessarily have to be on a crazy holiday, doesn't necessarily have to be something elaborate. But if you really love spending time with someone, let them know. Make sure you're making that time for date nights. Make sure you're making that time to do something different. Make sure you're making that time to go for dinner, just you, because a lot of the time we can actually think we're spending time with someone if we're watching TV with them or watching a movie with them or going for dinner with a group of friends or, you know, going to a brand event with that person. It's not actually true because you're not spending that quality time with that individual. And that's something that I really, really love and I really cherish. So if I'm going to watch a movie with my partner, we will have dinner before where we talk if that's going to be the only time I see him that week. It doesn't mean we don't watch movies together. It just means that's not the only thing we do because we're not really connecting. The second love language, which is also one of my favorites, is acts of service. I do want to say as a pretense, so all of the love languages that I'm going to talk you through, you'll probably say like, all of those are important to me, and they probably all are, but there's probably some that are more important to you. And I think that's what's really important to recognize. Are you getting that in your relationship? Have you communicated that in your relationship? Does your partner know that that's what you really love? Because a lot of the time, what we want, we actually give. So for me, I love spending quality time with my partner, but for him, words of affirmation are super, super important. Words of affirmation are not really that important. And that's the next love language I'm going to go on to, which is words of affirmation, which is quite self-explanatory, which is basically telling somebody how you feel, telling somebody good things about them, praising them, telling them how important they are to you, communicating so much about how much that person means to you. And I don't necessarily mean telling them every single day, but some people really attach a lot of worth to words. I necessarily don't. So if someone says, I love you, I'm a bit like, yeah, okay, cool, that's great. But if someone's like, I really love this, this, and this about you, I'm also like, that's really sweet, but it doesn't show me that you love me. The next one that shows me that you love me, acts of service, is super important to me because it's just so thoughtful when people are so nice and kind and do things that are unexpected. I think that's why I love acts of service so much. So I'm not sure, acts of service or quality time, they're both in my top category. But acts of service is just genuinely doing things without someone genuinely asking you to do them 100 times, which I think a lot of people relate to on this channel. But sometimes it's really sweet when someone does something that you just didn't expect or anticipate that they were going to do. So one time I was told that, oh, hey, I saw your AirPods weren't on charge, so I charged them for you. And I was like, that is the nicest thing someone has ever done for me in my entire life. Or if someone surprisingly buys me a coffee, I'm like, oh my God, that is the nicest thing ever that someone can do. And I think it's so important to figure out, is that really important to you? That could also be like, hey, I filled up the petrol in the car, or like, hey, I got us takeaway for dinner, or hey, I made you a note. It could be something so simple. A lot of the time we think acts of service is some kind of like generous, grand, incredible, crazy gift, but it could just be something so small. Like, I know you're really tired today, so I made you dinner. I think that's so sweet. I think that's amazing. Even if you got a microwave meal from Tesco and you warmed it up for me and you knew I was going to be tired and you made that for me. Best thing in the world, best feeling in the world for me. Anyway, the next love language I want to talk about is physical touch. Also important to me because I am quite affectionate. But for some people, they are super, super, super affectionate. That's like holding hands. That's like kissing them on the forehead. That's like being really like cuddly on the sofa. It doesn't mean that you have to be like really sexual, but I think for some people that is really important. So I think if you're struggling in a relationship and one person is like really overtly affectionate and the other person is not, it could make the other person feel like you don't love them because they're showing you their love by being super affectionate. And if you're like, I don't want to cuddle, I don't really want to hold your hand in public, I don't really care to show you any affection at all, whether that's in public or at home, then fair enough. But it's really important here to understand, are some people just shy? Because I know a lot of people don't like PDA. And if you have that conversation with your partner, hey, listen, I've been noticing that you're not really affectionate with me in public, they could turn around and just be like, I'm so sorry, I just really hate PDA. I'll be more mindful. Or, you know, I'm going to make sure that I'm super affectionate at you behind closed doors. So I think it's so important to really have that conversation, especially around affection, because I've seen so many people struggle with that in their relationship. The last one, which is probably the least important to me, is receiving gifts. And the reason I say it's least important to me is because receiving gifts can be super thoughtful and super kind and really, really sweet. But for me, personally, acts of service and quality time is way more important than someone giving me a small gift. Even if that's someone giving me the gift of coffee, I would actually say them doing something so small for me. Actually, it's kind of linked, isn't it? Actually, yeah. I guess if it's a small gift and it's like an acts of service kind of gift, like the microwave meal or someone giving me a coffee, I think that's really sweet. But if someone was just like, I'm not going to spend any time with you, I'm going to see you once a month, I'm going to see you once every 2 weeks, and I'm going to get you a Chanel bag every single month, I would be deeply, deeply, deeply unhappy. So I guess I always look at receiving gifts as being like a massive gift. But if I'm honest, it doesn't really need to be, because some people also share a lot of love from giving someone a really thoughtful gift and also spending a lot of money on them. And some people actually see that as a really great way of them showing them love. So I think for some people, I can actually understand why receiving gifts is actually a big love language, especially if they're used to giving people loads of big gifts, if they're used to saving up to buy someone a big gift, if they're used to their family or their friends giving them gifts, and they see that as kind of like mixed in with acts of service. So I think for a lot of people, that can also be a massive priority. Just to recap on the love languages: acts of service, quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation, and receiving gifts are really important in all of our lives. Once you know what your love language is, you can actually communicate that to someone else and just say, whether it's your partner or your friends even, or even if it's your family member, like, I actually feel like I've been super busy at work and I haven't been able to communicate and set a boundary. It can be, for example, that someone tells you that they're so proud of you and that they love what the work you're doing and they're just in awe of everything you're doing, but actually they don't spend any quality time with you, so you don't actually hear that from them. You're just hearing them typing it, or you're just watching them on a comment section, and you're actually thinking, well, you know what, you're my partner and I really want you to tell me that in person. I really want to spend time with you. I really want to make sure that we go out for dinner to celebrate a win, instead of you commenting on my Facebook picture saying, hey, God, Facebook picture, am I in the 90s? Instagram photo being like, congratulations. Even if it's with your friend, you can be like, I appreciate that you're showing me love by always congratulating me, but actually what I really want to do with you is spend some time with you, because I feel that we haven't been able to do that in our friendship or relationship or whatever. That's just one example, by the way. There are so many different examples. If people buy people gifts, a lot of the time they don't want to spend time with them, or a lot of the time they don't do any acts of service. That can be really detrimental. But at the same time, if you're someone that just tells someone amazing things but never does any of the other four things, someone can feel really underloved and underappreciated. What makes you happy won't necessarily make your partner happy. And I've had to learn that in so many of my relationships that I've been in, because a lot of the time I'm like, but I'm showing you so much love. And they're like, wait, hold on. But you're not showing me the love the way I want to receive it. You're showing me the love in the way you want to receive it. So I think if you're struggling in a relationship, it's super important to actually even have this conversation if you're not struggling, and just say, hey, I learned about these 5 love languages today. I wonder what your love language is. And I've done this with my partner. It's actually super, super interesting, because what I thought they loved wasn't necessarily what they loved. And what I thought that they appreciated wasn't necessarily what they appreciated. So I've stopped doing the things that they don't necessarily appreciate, and I've started doing the things that they actually love. And it's made such a big difference, because you're way more aligned. And I know that it's really helped me when I've had challenging times in a relationship, because I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. I actually know now that that doesn't make you happy. And even though that makes me happy, I have to understand how we can compromise and find a win-win. So I'm really interested to know, what's your love language? Have you had this conversation with your partner? And if you haven't, will you be having this conversation with your partner to figure out what their love language is? I'd be so interested to know in the comment section what your love language is, and if this video helped you. And if it did, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and like it.